I cannot shift this weight. It's impossible to shift that weight while estrogen levels are high. So this is another contributing factor in the weight gain we are seeing in Australia today, especially in the women. As a cell or capillary dilator, estrogen in some women causes migraines at period time. It's also causing depression because of a lack of happy hormone. The woman has lost her desire for sex. And when she does have sex, it is very painful. And it's very, very sad that her husband's secretary is looking better all the time. That's a tragic situation. So she goes to the doctor. She says, I'm having hot flushes every 10 minutes. I can't bear it. I can't function. So he gives her hormone replacement therapy. Hormone replacement therapy. What is this? More synthetic hormones. It tricks the body again into thinking it's pregnant. So it stops causing the capillaries to dilate to the skin, puts all of its energies into the uterus and the breast. 6 years later, the woman finds she has a lump on her breast. She goes to the doctor, he takes her off HRT immediately. Why? He knows. He knows it causes breast cancer. And if you talk to the doctor and you say, why do you do it if you know it causes it? His answer is this. He said she was suffering and it brought her relief. That is true. And he said not every woman will get breast cancer, and that also is true. I feel sorry for the doctor because they're the only alternatives they have. What is HRT? More synthetic hormones causing more disruption in the hormonal balance of a woman. But some women say to me, I have all these symptoms and I have never been on the pill, and neither was my mother. There is more. What causes a chicken to be fully developed in 5 weeks? It's a little bit scary, isn't it? This explains our 6'2" sons coming out of 5'2" mothers and 5'8" fathers. Where did that come from? And about young girls developing very large breasts when there's none of that in the family. When I was a little girl, we had chicken once a year and we used to get it from the farm. When I was 15 years of age, Kentucky Fried Chicken came to the nearest town. When Kentucky Fried Chicken came, that's really when Aussies started to eat chicken regularly. Chicken today, it's illegal to give them growth stimulants. So how they've got around that, there's a couple of ways. It can be in the pellets, the chicken pellets that they're eating. They have also been able to genetically modify the chicken so it produces more estrogen. Whatever way, they grow too big too quickly. And the human being that eats it is going to be getting some of that estrogen. If it's in the chicken, it's in the egg. What about meat? It's against the law for Australian cattle farmers to give their cattle growth stimulants. But we had a cattle farmer's wife do our program, and she confirmed to me, she said, once a fortnight they knock on our door. Recently we had a young girl who worked in the meat industry, and she said, it used to be you stop the growth stimulants 5 months before market and it wasn't picked up in the blood test. She said today it's 5 days. If they stop it 5 days before, it's not picked up in the blood test. So basically, if it's in the meat, whether it be chicken or red meat, it's in the product. What about fish? Well, when you've got 80% of women on the pill or HRT going to the toilet, the sewage goes out to sea, the fish are feeding on the sewage, they're finding female fish with male tendencies, male fish with female tendencies. Lentils are sounding more attractive all the time, aren't they? What about the girl that said, but I've never been on the pill, either of my mother, and I'm a vegetarian? There's more. Plastics. Plastic contains something, many plastics today contain something called nonylphenol. estrogen has a phenyl ring, and that phenyl ring is the key that unlocks the door into the estrogen receptor site on the cell. So plastics that contain nonylphenol or bisphenol A. Bisphenol A is what is found lining most tins, and the nonylphenol is what makes plastic soft. So when these phenols are in the plastics and the human being eats things that have been touching the plastic or heated in the plastic or been in the plastic for a while, can you see they're getting those estrogen mimickers? Dr. Anna Zotto, she's an American endocrinologist. She was growing she was growing cancerous breast tissue in flasks. And whenever she injected it with estrogen, it would grow. She'd stop injecting it with estrogen and it would stop growing. One day she came in and all night it had grown and she had not given it any estrogen. She was puzzled by this. So she asked the people who were providing the flask, she said, "Have you changed the flask?" They said, "Yes, we're now getting a flask that has nonylphenol in it. It's a lot softer." So the nonylphenol in that flask was feeding the cancerous breast tissue. I think it's impossible to get away from plastics. It's handy stuff, but be very mindful of food's exposure to it. You can get some plastics that don't have nonylphenol, those hard plastics don't. If you have a kettle, get a glass kettle or a stainless steel. Just be mindful of the dangers. And babies, the plastic nappies, the disposable nappies. You can get nappies in the supermarket called Natty, and they are made out of starch. They're a little bit more expensive, but I think you'll agree with me, worth every cent. If we think we've got a hormonal problem now, you wait till these children grow up with their plastic disposable nappies and chewing on plastic rattles in plastic bottles with altered cow's milk heated in microwaves. A bit scary, isn't it? That's why education is important. That's why if you know someone has a baby, buy them 2 packets of Natty nappies, all made out of starch, can be put in the compost bin, can even be put in the fire. Buy them a stainless steel milk bottle. You can get glass, or you can actually get some phenol-free plastic bottles now. Herbicides, insecticides, pesticides, and chemicals. All of these can break down to metabolites that mimic estrogen. You see this little list, it explains the hormonal balance that's really exploding on the planet today. What